Vic here with Mr. Skunk Manhattan.
Yep. And hello, everybody. This is podcast number 7. And we are here with Justin James Bridges, someone I've known now for a decade-ish. I'd
What's
say
up,
we probably
everybody?
met at a show in San Marcos, right? We got Justin James Bridges, musician, among other things. We'll kind of dive into to some of the different things you do. You do travel and move around quite a bit. Usually when I touch base with you, you're in a different region. I know we met here at a show in San Marcos. You lived in San Marcos. Right. You had a band called Leprechaun Theory at the time.
Yeah.
And then you were up on the West Coast for quite a while. Was it Seattle or Portland or both? Portland. I don't remember.
Yeah, I was in Portland for about 5 years.
And you did some festivals, and there's a lot of history up there we'll get into. And then now you're on East Coast, and you're up in you're actually in Austin at the moment, but you live now in Syracuse. Is that right?
Right, just outside of Syracuse. Yeah, I live in the Finger Lakes area.
Awesome, man. So what brings you to Austin this time around? What's new in your world?
So I been doing some work, and I was been talking with Moruga Booker, who is, for those of y'all that don't know, Moruga Booker played with George Clinton and the Parliament Funkadelic. He's the drummer for the P-Funk All-Stars. But he's also played at Woodstock. He's jammed with Jimi Hendrix. He played with Jerry Garcia and Merle Saunders when they did the Blues in the Rainforest. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. It's insane.
Are those big names? I'm not familiar with. So how did that relationship begin? How did you guys meet?
Last year, 2019, in April, I played an event called the Hash Bash Cup in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And my buddy Daryl introduced me while I was at that event. Moruga was playing with like a little small orchestra thing, and he was playing his congas and just sitting in with some people. And so I got to meet him there. And then I was working on a video shoot and in Michigan, and my buddy Daryl invited Moruga to come out to the shoot. And when he did, he brought he's the creator of the Nada drum, which is like kind of a combination of a talking drum and like it's a combination of a few different drums, but like you can warp the tone while you're playing it. And so you can actually change and you can change the pitch and change the tone and everything. So it's pretty cool. But so he brought his Nada drum over and started playing that. And I had my custom guitar. And we started trading licks back and forth, and he was starting to do some like Eastern jazz kind of stuff mixed in with some like really cool like syncopated beats and things like that. But he was also changing the tone of the drum while he was playing it, and I was playing the exact licks back to him on my guitar. And then we started getting into some speed licks back and forth and going back and forth, and we both started laughing, and I was like, I really dig what you do. And he was like, I really dig what you do. Let's do it together. And so that's how
that's awesome.
How it got kicked off. Yeah.
And then he's got a studio, or where is he located?
Yes. So he's in Ann Arbor. And at his house, he had one of the guys that set up the Motown studios and everything, came out and set up his studio for him and built it out. So he completely built a separate building from his house at his house, like outside of his house, and built out a small studio. But it's got a full big room, big enough for, he's got this huge trap kit. It's big enough for a full band. We had a, 4 or 5 piece band in there playing together.
So you're going to be going up there and recording, or you already have, or
we actually it's funny, on the way down I was in Michigan for a week, and we actually recorded 2 albums in 1 week. And so
wow.
Yeah. So one of them is called The Boom, and it's one ONE Derland, Derland, so Da Boom in Wonderland, and takes you on like and the thing about Moruga is he's actually he's a shaman and a yogi, and he is an Orthodox priest, among a bunch of other things too. So he believes in, he's always bringing the light and everything to oneness. So everything, like he brings all the religions and everything together because everything is one. We are all one. We're all from stardust. We're all from the uncreated light. That's everybody came, we're all one, when it really comes down to it. And that's really what we're trying to push in this album. And, some of the musicians that are on there, Maruga brought in some amazing people. He on two of the songs on the Da Boom album, we actually have, Tony Newton, who is the bass player for Motown and for Michael Jackson, playing on a couple of the songs with us as well. So there's a lot of history on this album.
That's amazing, man. Was that very much kind of a jammy in the moment album, or like pre-arrangements much, or what kind of? It sounds like to me it's a more jammy type thing. Is that accurate?
Kind of, to a point. We kind of came in and we just kind of stepped out of the way and let the music take control, and went on like a little musical journey with these two albums. And one of them is like the Da Boom in Wonderland is kind of like a psychedelic dance EDM kind of feel to it, but it takes you through, there's a bunch of Maruga's traveled all over the world learning from all these gurus and all these masters. And and he's 77 years old. So he's been traveling for quite some time playing with everybody. And so there's a bunch of beats from all over the world, different drum sounds and styles that he's picked up. And so there's a lot of different percussion from all over the world mixed in with so he's a shaman and he's playing real actual shamanic beats as the backing beats for this dance album. So it's kind of like it's almost like a spiritual journey, like, a little healing journey disguised as a dance album.
That's great. Any any release date for that yet, or any timeline?
So right now we re-recorded all our parts, and then we sent it over to Amiko, who is the keyboard player for Cyndi Lauper, and she's played with Major Lazer, and she's played with Marcus Mumford, among a bunch of other people. And then on her own regards too, she's released a bunch of music herself and has been on the top of charts herself as well. She plays she's a representative for Hammond, Oregon. And nice. she's playing Hammond over a bunch of stuff, but she also plays guitar. So on the electronic dance stuff, she's playing guitar and stuff like that. And then over the live, like rock and roll, blues, funk album. So we have Da Boom, and then we have Booker and Bridges. And that is more of like that was a live album kind of recorded. So it has that live feel to it. And then we're overdubbing on top of the live feel. So she's playing, the electronic kind of synthesize and guitar over the dance music, and then the Hammond and, clav and stuff like that over the funk and rock and roll and live stuff. You know what I mean? So it sounds
like a really interesting mix.
Yeah. And we also have, on top of that, we have Tony Strapp, P-Funk Thomas playing guitar on a couple of on both of the albums, but not on every song, but on a big chunk of it. And we have David Winans II from the Winans Gospel family is also playing. He plays bass throughout the album. So, and then we have a couple of musicians that pop in and out on a couple of them. Had a buddy Corey came through and played some harmonica. And then on one of the songs on Booker and Bridges, we actually have my two little daughters, my 3.5-year-old and my 2-year-old played harmonica, and my 3.5-year-old, she sang one of the songs she wrote over some of our music. So,
wow, that's cool. Golly, man, I have a bad memory, but I don't recall you having kids. Maybe you told me and I forgot. Sorry. Congratulations on your grown family. That's really cool, man. That's awesome that you're getting them involved, and sounds like obviously they're into music. It sounds like.
Yeah. It's been funny. I didn't really push it on them, but like I gave my girls, I gave my daughter for her first Christmas, I gave her a harmonica. And she used it as a rattle in the case. She would just shake it and play with it. And then I opened it for her one day, and she went from, like, her birthday's in January, so this is before she was even a year old. She went from crawling and like standing up, like, and pulling things to standing up. And then one day she just stood up and grabbed, like she had her harmonica, and she stood up and looked at me and started playing her harmonica and walked to me. It's just like, you went from crawling to walking and playing the harmonica.
Man, that's like just evolved like 2001 level.
Right. It's like, oh, okay.
Found the monolith in her closet.
Right. So yeah, it's been pretty fun, and then they love music, so it's pretty fun to like. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask how long you guys have been up in New York area.
A little over a year. We were down here in Texas, and then we moved.
Oh yeah, you were. That's right. You were you in Houston for a while then.
Yeah, I was in Houston for a little bit, and then we moved to San Marcos, and we were in San Marcos for about a year or two. And that's where my second daughter was born. And then we went from there. We ended up moving up to New York. That's where Danielle is from. My fiance is actually from New York.
Gotcha.
So
moved
up to be close to her family. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. I mean, I love it up there. It's beautiful. I certainly prefer the weather. How far is that from the? I mean, I don't know my demographic. Like, how far is Syracuse from Canada?
City? Oh, from Canada. Yeah. Honestly, I think it's like maybe.
Is it sort of central in the state? Oh, so it's kind of north,
like central New York. It's like central New York is what they consider it. It's it's like 4.5 hours from the city, from New York City.
What do you know about where it sits in relation to like Rochester or Buffalo?
It is an hour. So from Rochester, it's an hour and a half away from Rochester, east, an hour and a half east.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
A little bit south. Man. So that's southeast a little bit.
I guess the summers get hot up there too. I mean,
not really.
Texas hot, I don't think, but no, you bastard. You bastard. I was just out in San Francisco, man, and I love the weather out there. Although it was the apocalypse with all the fires and looked like Mars, and we couldn't go outside. But I'm not a fan of the crazy hot Texas heat. Are you from Texas originally, San Marcos? Where are you from?
I was born outside of San Antonio in Bandera and lived all over Texas. So I lived in Texas. We moved around a bunch, and then we moved to Florida for 7 years from when I was 9 to 16. And then we moved back to Texas. I graduated high school in Houston. So
what do you think of Florida? How was that?
When I was little, it made me mad because I was told it was the Sunshine State, and then I showed up and it rained every day for every day.
Like Houston, right? It feels like an armpit when you walk outside.
Yeah, exactly.
What part of Florida were you in?
We were in Central Florida, right outside Orlando, in a place called Oviedo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was hot and muggy there too. Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, I've been traveling around a lot. It's hard being in New York sometimes because I was impressed with myself that I made it through the winter relatively okay, and was like, you know what, this is the hardest winter I've ever been through. I did just fine. And everybody up there is like, oh, this is the most mild winter we've ever had. Like, what? I'm like, that's the most snow I've ever seen in my life. You could add all just the snow I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, it was crazy. But
I feel like
the summers are really nice though.
Beautiful, yeah. And I also feel like, I mean, I'm that way too, like where you're just like, God, I hate Texas and the heat, and I do. But then you get in a real winter and you're like, holy shit, this is intense.
Well, going back to Texas.
I'm going back to Texas where it's 80 degrees right now in February.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely been hard to deal with. I didn't know that, I've never been somewhere where it got negative 20 before. That blew my mind.
Yikes. Yeah, man. Oof. When was that? Like what time of year? Around January, February or something?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, it was cold. That blew my mind. I'd never felt that before. It didn't stay there long, but it was long enough to tell me that I don't need to be outside.
And so speaking of that, and I want to talk about when you lived in Portland, I guess the weather there is more in the Seattle vein. Is it pretty rainy? But it always stays kind of in the 40s, 50s. Like, between I love that.
40 and 80 degrees almost all year round.
Man, that's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing.
It's just once you get used to the mist, because it's not really a rain all the time, but it is like
dreary and foggy. Sounds amazing. Yeah, I love it.
It's totally
that's
up your
a cool
alley.
town too. Oh yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, it is. It is a cool
Fits
town.
my somber personality.
Yeah, I have my issues with Portland, obviously.
We're gonna get into that. Yeah, we're gonna get into that. Before we go down that road, go ahead, Vic.
No, I was just gonna say from a strictly visual, where it's located. Very, very beautiful town. And I didn't realize how far out west it was, because I think I went out there for a work trip, and it was, what day was it? It was like winter solstice or whatever one of those days are. But it was an extremely long day, and I just remember going to bed at like 11 at night, and the sun was still up, and I was like, "Holy crap! I didn't realize we were out." Yeah, summer solstice. Thank you. Yeah, I didn't realize how far out west that was, because the sun is still up, and it's pretty late at night, and it was really trippy. But very cool.
Yeah, that was crazy for me, being from Texas and like living in the South most of my life, and going up north to Portland and seeing the like change from like the wintertime, how short the days were, to like how long they were in the summertime. Like there's like an actual big, huge, like it's a very, very big difference.
Yeah.
So.
In regards to Portland, when you were over there on the West Coast, and then I think you're doing the same thing now on the East Coast. So you have participated in, but also have you kind of put on some of your own festivals as well? Like tell us about some of the festival circuit stuff you've done.
Yeah, so I played a lot of different festivals, but I've also put on. I'm the founder of the Cannabis Common Sense Tour, and so we go around spreading education and awareness about cannabis and hemp. And 25% of the money we raise from our concerts goes to the commissary accounts of POWs of the drug war. And so,
oh wow, okay,
yeah, and so we started that in 2014.
Of that for you.
Okay, we started that in 2014. And I was in Portland during legalization, when we were making the big push and everything. I was playing all the events and helping with concerts and fundraisers and spreading the news and trying to educate people. And the sad thing about what happened in Portland with legalization is that the law was written really well and really helped out patients and really helped out the consumer. And then because the law didn't specifically say that the legislature couldn't change the law, the legislature went back through after it was voted for, and the people voted on one thing, and then they went back there and changed a bunch of stuff up. And it's still, it's still progressive. It's still a step forward compared to the rest of the country in a lot of places, but it's not what it could have been.
When was that? When did marijuana become legal there, full on?
Believe 2014, either 12 or 14.
And who was first? Was it Colorado, or was it actually? And then
Oregon,
Oregon followed suit, right?
Yeah. So Oregon was going to legalize the same year that Colorado was, but there was just the law that was written. There was a lot of pushback because it was really all for the patients and all for the consumer, instead of the other way, instead of more business minded, instead of more like profit minded, it was more people minded. And so that was one of the reasons it faced a lot of backlash and didn't pass in 2012. But they redid the law to make it to where it would pass in 2014.
Right. So, I mean, it's just like California, it was so weird when I first went to San Francisco a few years ago. And we're like, and I was not drinking at the time, and went out for sushi or something with my brother and his wife, and like, well, it seems like this is where we would like go to a bar now or something, but I don't drink. And they're like, well, we could go to what do you call it, a dispensary, right?
Or a lounge,
and, and I was like, oh yeah. And so then we went and we like bought some stuff, and it was like amazing. I was like, oh my God, like they give you like a basket and you walk through and there's jars of all this shit. And it was cool. I've never, been in. And so, and then we're just like, it was so weird because you're so used to this Texas shit, and so used to growing up. So fucking God forbid you get caught with a joint kind of bullshit. And we're just walking down the road smoking a joint. And I was just going like, or anytime I'd be like, oh shit, that's right, it's legal. I'd smell marijuana and go, oh duh, it's like, okay, you know, like,
right.
It's so weird. And it's becoming more commonplace and
Exactly.
all that. But do you know where we're at in terms of states that have legalized, what the number is?
I have a song where I talk about every legal state, but
Right on.
it's more than half of the country.
Yeah, no, it's so good to see this happening, man.
Yeah.
And speaking of what you're doing, I guess, when you call them POWs, just people that have been prosecuted over total horseshit from this fucking drug war that went down in the 80s and 90s and really screwed lots of people. And then obviously there's a huge, I'm sure you have some very, opinions on these, on this whole drug war, with your advocacy against that. And then also, with what you've been through with the police personally and everything in terms of where we're at with police reform and defunding and all that kind of stuff. So I guess we could jump into that, man, if you want to tell your story, how that went down. And that was in Portland where this happened.
Yeah. So I was in 2000. So to preface it a little bit. So most of my songs that I write come from dreams. About 90% of the songs I write come from dreams, and I get the whole song in a dream, and I just have to learn how to play it. And so I had this song that came to me a few months. This was back in 2011. I had just moved to Portland. I toured from Houston to Portland in January, and then moved up there, was helping my buddies up there, and was playing music and everything like that. And had this dream, and this song came to me, and I ended up writing a song called Mysteries. And in that song, the vernacular of that song was talking about like the 1% and all the different things that the Occupy movement kind of brought to the forefront that were in the vernacular of the Occupy movement. But this is before Occupy happened, and then Occupy Wall Street happened. And I was like, wait a second, that's what this song is, And then Occupy Portland was being set up to where they were going to follow suit. And so I went downtown with my guitar and my buddy with the video camera, and we were going to shoot scenes for a music video to kind of get more people inspired and more people motivated to the movement. And so I went down there, and we started filming this video, and we were in the march and went through the march and everything. And at the end of the march, we get to the rally where everybody was at, and there were people giving speeches. Well, I used to be an interpreter for the deaf, ended up seeing a bunch of deaf people standing around asking what was going on, and there was no interpreters. So I just hopped up and started interpreting. And I ended up staying at the camp the whole time for 39 days. There was only 2 days that I didn't stay at the camp in 39 days. And I was the only interpreter there. And so I interpreted for every meeting and all the different, all the different planning meetings we had. If there was anybody at camp that needed an interpreter to be able to just discuss daily things, I was there available as well. And so on November 13th, 2011, the police came through to clear out our camp, and I ended up being attacked by the police. I was pinned against a trash can, and my back popped and my legs gave out. And then after being told I couldn't feel my legs, they grabbed me by the ankles and dragged me back into the park and flipped me over and slammed me down in front of a bunch of other protesters. And then when I put my hands behind my back, they said I was resisting arrest. So they started stomping on me and hitting me with batons and kicking me and dropping knees on me.
Even though you couldn't even move, right, at that point.
Yeah, I couldn't feel my legs. I was yelling. I couldn't feel my legs. When I was in the hospital, I saw that I had a bunch of like baton marks on my legs because as I was yelling, I couldn't feel my legs. They just kept hitting me in the legs, which luckily I couldn't feel all those strikes. Yeah. But they hit me hard. I was wearing a leather jacket, and they beat me bad enough that it split my leather jacket in multiple places. Damn. Yeah, and
that's crazy, man. I've never actually talked to you about the specific details of what happened. And it's worse. Just, please go on if you're comfortable with it, man. Yeah, like by all means.
Yeah, it's
whatever you
crazy,
want to talk about. I mean, so, I know where you ended up from it, obviously, but yeah, keep going.
So I don't know if a lot of viewers know this or anything, but So they were threatening, and like you've been seeing what they've been doing now with all the tear gas and pepper spray and everything like that. Well, one thing that was known to help neutralize pepper spray was apple cider vinegar. So people were soaking bandanas in apple cider vinegar, just in case they got tear gas, they could pull those up. And somebody gave me a bandana with one soaked, so I was wearing that around my neck, and just so I could pull it up just in case. And they were while they were attacking me and hitting me and everything, like I couldn't stand up. So they finally got me zip tied and were yelling at me to stand up. And I couldn't. I was like, I can't feel my legs. I can't walk. And so they grabbed my wrists and pulled them up past my head behind me. And then they grabbed my ankles and pulled them up to my wrists in front of me. And they grabbed me by my bandana around my neck, and they twisted and they lifted me up. And, I've trained in martial arts since I was young. And so I know about blood chokes and things like that. And you can die in a blood choke in 5 seconds. You can be done. You can have brain damage in 5 seconds in a blood choke because it cuts off the circulation to your brain. And I felt the bandana slide up under my neck and hit my arteries. And I started trying to say that I couldn't breathe. And I was like, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And one cop laughed at me and he's like, you can still breathe because you can talk. And then I tried to call for help and nothing came out. And everything faded to black. And the last thought that went through my head was, fuck, I just got killed by the cops. And like came to with them kicking me in the middle of the park to see if I was still conscious or alive. And then
wow, man.
Yeah, shit still messes with me. They once they realized how bad they hurt me, they finally called over the EMS, and the medics came over and cut the zip ties off me and put me on a stretcher, and then took me to a hospital. Unfortunately, the cops sent me to a specific hospital, and that hospital did whatever they could to keep the cops safe. And so there's a lot of craziness that happened during all of that. On top of, like I ended up in a wheelchair for over 3 years, and I couldn't move my right arm for 6 months. I play guitar for a living. And so it was a life-changing experience for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome that you're alive, obviously, and to see you walking again, man. And are you still using a cane? Are you at 100%? I don't think you're at 100%.
I'm not at 100%. Getting there? I'm getting there. I've had some setbacks, as long as I have enough medical cannabis, because I am a medical cannabis patient, and as long as I have a bunch of concentrates and good medicine, I can limit my spasms, and I don't have to use the cane so much. But
is that primarily edibles or?
So I consume cannabis in every way you can. Like I eat a bunch of edibles, I dab it, I vaporize it, I use it topically. But I eat a ton of edibles as well. Like I consume cannabis as much as I can because when I am fully saturated, I don't have spasms,
Right.
And when I'm not, I'm having, 30, 40 spasms a day sometimes.
Or I'm assuming you had to do a lot of physical therapy and stuff like that.
Yeah, actually, my fiance is a massage therapist that got me out of the wheelchair.
Wow, well, that's amazing. Yeah. It's it's funny that one of those. It's hard to say silver lining with something so horrible, but one of those stories. I don't think it's super uncommon when you have people meet in crazy circumstances. Someone in the hospital or whatever, and the nurse, patient, or massage therapist, that kind of thing. So that's pretty cool, man. Wow,
no pharmaceuticals, dude. Cannabis and massage therapy.
Hey, all natural. Yeah. What do you know?
Yeah.
No wonder it was fucking illegal for so long.
Right?
Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah. It's insane.
God. Yeah, it is insane. Well, I mean, it's awesome to talk to you about that specifically in light of the absolute madness we're seeing happening in our country right now.
And I want to be one thing that I do want to make very, very absolutely clear is that like I am very well aware that the only reason I'm still alive is because of the color of my skin. Like they stopped choking me when I went limp. They did not get off of George Floyd's neck when he went limp. They did not stop choking Eric Garner when he went limp.
Well, we always hear the same story.
And on and on and on and on. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
same story, yeah.
It's, you know, so it's, like, that's not lost on me. You know, I'm very well aware that the reason I'm still alive and I can still talk about it today is because they stopped choking me because I'm white. You know, that's just how I feel about that.
In that particular incident, do you know if anyone else was harmed, injured up to your extent? Were you the exception that day? Were there a lot of injuries? Hopefully
there
no
wasn't
deaths.
A lot of, actually, I was the worst that day. They slammed some people around and like checked some. I saw them hit this 15-year-old kid in the neck with a baton. You know, like I saw them do some really messed up things. And
were most of you white?
Most of in Portland. So Portland's a really white city, like a really, really white city. Like that was culture shock for me, that part.
Well, I think it's important
from Texas, you know?
Yeah. And I think it's important that message gets out too, man. I just saw something about, and I mean, you know, I'm not going to stand here and say like all cops are heinous pigs, but clearly there's a fucking huge problem here. You know what I mean? A huge problem. And we can't deny that, you know? And I think, but I also think it's important to say like, this is, like you said, you're saying I'm alive because I'm white. It didn't happen as bad as it could have, but it still happened. It's happening to all kinds of people in all kinds of places.
Exactly.
In the you know, in the black minority, or, you know, in those communities, clearly it happens possibly more to to extremes. And I think the only difference now and maybe, you know, 30 years ago when people were fighting the same shit is that now it's getting filmed, you know, it's being filmed by everybody now. And we're seeing it's all coming to light and we're seeing it happen. And on the one hand, you go, well, that's one incident. Well, one incident is still too many incidents, you know, and talking to guys like you who are just I'm pretty fucking sure it was a peaceful goddamn. We're talking about Portland, a bunch of white people. Come on, man. Like you guys are a bunch of fucking hippie stoners.
I said to the cops, the last thing I said to the cops before they attacked me was, I love you guys. Why are y'all doing this?
Yeah. I mean, it just sounds like completely bullshit, unjustified. Like, we all know the names of, you know, of the ones that are being, you know, George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. We all know those names. I saw something the other day about, and I do think it's important for people to get facts and research. And the information we get is skewed. And I think a lot of times we don't know what the truth is, man. That's why it's talking to someone like you're telling the story firsthand. It happened to you. You know, you're not someone with a fucking opinion on something with no idea what stuff. And I think we all make that mistake. I've been guilty. Most of us are. It's infuriating just to hear about it, right? And you kind of run off of emotion and rather than facts. And to be honest, like it's very hard, I think, on a lot of these things to even get the facts. Anyway, I just saw something about another story about where it was something along the lines of a teenager who was autistic. He was having a breakdown, this and that. He had some kind of thing where his dad had been had a run in with the cops. So he had a thing against cops. I don't know if either you guys saw this story. And so his mom calls the police because she's like, my son's having a breakdown. I need to get him to some kind of mental, whatever. I don't remember the context. Shows up. I mean, the kid's autistic. He's a kid. You know, maybe he had an air rifle. I mean, I understand when things, I kind of understand like a cop, you know, self-defense and, if there's a rifle or a pot, take a shot, whatever, rubber bullet. But when these guys shoot someone, this kid was shot 7-10 times, some crazy shit, running away. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, it's a fucking scared autistic kid, doesn't know what the fucking going on. He's freaking out and you're shooting him like 7 times. Like, it's insane.
It's
just fucking crazy.
And then people try to justify that. Like a cop should never kill someone. You know, that shouldn't be the norm. It shouldn't be, well, he shot somebody. Like, that shouldn't be normal. There's other countries where there's an officer involved shooting and the whole country mourns.
Right.
Like, what's wrong with us? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, we're literally like, we have people that pass and then it's instantly arguing about like politics instead of mourning somebody.
Well, you just nailed it, man. It becomes this agenda serving thing. It's horrible. School shootings, police brutality, murders of innocent victims in the name of crusaders on both ends of the spectrum. It's just like all this shit becomes political, and we're like, these are fucking human beings who are now dead, who are now like you were in a wheelchair, who all kinds of shit like this, and we forget about that and we just use it for political. I mean, you see the most horrific memes, and to me it actually makes perfect sense, because this is the poison of our culture, right? We see this endlessly, whether it's serial killer, I mean, I say this every week, but serial killer documentaries on Netflix, or these or violence in video games and movies. And I'm not one of these crazy right-winger crusaders, but that's a fact. And on top of that, we're seeing our feeds and Facebook and Twitter, it's just negative trash talk over and over, and we succumb to it. And I think it's no fucking secret why people are just losing their fucking shit. And
it's insane.
Human life is, you know what I mean? It's like this. We don't even value it at all. It's disgusting.
Exactly.
Man.
Yeah, and it's insane to think that, like, you know, more people have access to what's going on now. More people can see what's going on, and for people to like, it's just I don't even know, like to see the people arguing about certain things. Like I literally made a post about, like, you know, we should be able to, like, not having people talk about politics and religion has led to us not being able to have civil conversations. Like, we should have been taught how to have civil conversations. Was basically the gist of what I posted. It turned into, in the comments, like 600 comments, and I pulled it because somebody started getting death threats.
Yeah. Jeez.
Like, because I couldn't understand. I can't understand that. Like, I don't get it. Like, it doesn't make. It doesn't.
Dude, we're talking about people that, I mean, we don't look at people as individual human beings. We look at them as on our side, you know, enemies and allies, and that's it. And it's like, you know, you got guys, people in Texas going, oh, all the liberals in California can just burn. God's the fire, then burn the liberals in California.
Right.
You know? Like, hey, man, we can make jokes about California being liberal and having stupid policies. Like, fine, make jokes. Fuck the pedophiles. Let's fucking make jokes about them. But when you start going, oh, California, fuck Texas, fuck that. And I'm sure the same thing happened with you. You know, it's just like someone goes, oh, fuck that hippie, deserved it. Why? Because he was fucking protesting that marijuana should be legal? Like, that's crazy.
Not what we were protesting. We were protesting social justice back then is what we were going on. No worries.
Well, fuck you then.
Yeah.
How dare you, sir? How dare you?
I mean, sorry, I believe that people in politics should be held accountable, and I believe that education is something that is I really honestly believe education is the only tax that has a return.
Yeah. Clearly, that's the marijuana talking. I can't believe you're not regurgitating what you learned in school like a good little boy. No wonder they beat you up. No, that's a sad truth, man. I look back in history, and like when we had a guest on here, one of Victor's friends, with just fascinating conversation. We talked about all kinds of things. Mm-hmm. And oh shit, I already lost my train of thought on this. What was he? Shit.
The first podcast or the last one?
No, Jerry.
Are you on marijuana, sir?
Yeah, are you? Do you need to be?
Just looking at your image makes me high. Like, I don't think anyone's going to see this, but like, you're coming from a phone and you look like you're just. It's like I'm having an acid trip right now looking at your image. Like, not only is your attire like how you always dress, very loud. You look like you should be a member of P-Funk, but you're like pixelated and shit. Yeah.
Well, luckily, man, playing with members of P-Funk blew my mind. That was so cool.
I can only imagine, man.
Man, so I learned that, you know, that little skank thing that they do, that little, you know, that little like funky skank thing they do on the guitar. I learned to play that listening to P-Funk. You know, I learned to do that little like rhythm, like funky little lead rhythm lick thing. And then I got to play with Tony Stratt, P-Funk Thomas. And like, while we're playing together, I'm sitting there looking at it and having the realization, this is where I learned that.
That's where that came from, right? Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Like, I was like, wow, That's really cool.
That is so cool, man. And I love that too. Like, you're one of those guys, like a lot of people I think I keep in touch with that I've met over the years at various shows and various times and whatever. And we may not talk for a while and then we cross paths or catch up, and it's always something new. You're in a different place. Oh, wait. And that's like, you're one of those guys. I'm like, shit, where do you live? I can't remember. You know what I mean? And I know you're in Houston for a while. And next I'm like, oh, wait, you're in New York and you're playing with guys from P-Funk. What the fuck? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So, in fact, something else.
It's a wild ride.
Well, I'm glad. I mean, obviously, man, you seem like in pretty good spirits. You got a lot of cool things going on. You got a family happening. Yeah. You're walking. Yeah. I mean, that in of itself is amazing. But, you know, back to what we were talking about, I think that's really like become such a problem for us as a nation. And maybe this is a global thing. You know, it's like just like the idea of like, there was something I was going to say about Jerry in the conversation we had, Vic, and I can't remember what the specific was, but, you know, when you talk to people as individuals and you stop looking at them just as such, you know, for lack of a better way of putting it, black and white, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, usually when you actually talk to people like that, then you start to have some sort of empathy and, you know, understand where someone's coming from rather than just looking at them as some expendable thing that doesn't agree with you. Yeah. The opposition, you know? So I was going to ask you about, hang on, I'm looking it up because I can't remember what it was called. BLVD Sounds. That's something new you're involved with, right?
Boulevard. Yeah. Boulevard. So
Boulevard Sounds. Yeah.
It's a app that just launched. They just launched a website as well. They made me one of their founding artists. It is a place where you can go and check out a bunch of different types of music and things like that. And actually, that's where I met Amiko, who plays keys for Cyndi Lauper, and she's played with Major Lazer and Marcus Mumford and a bunch of other stuff. So that's where I got to meet her, and we linked up and connected. And she heard kind of what I was doing, and I told her, you know, like, I'm looking for keys to put down on these albums, and she was like, I'm in. And so. It's a cool place. You can network and get to check out all sorts of different fun things. And so it's been
where are they located? Where is their headquarters?
So I believe it's a Canadian-based company. They have offices in Canada and in LA, and then they have a couple places around. Different places around the world. I think they have someone in the UK. They have a couple people out there. They have some people out in Asia as well. So,
right on.
Yeah, I've got to meet some really cool artists through there. And
how long has that been going? It's pretty new thing, right?
Brand new. Yeah, I think it's like maybe a month old, maybe 2 months old.
Okay.
So it's brand new. It's just launched. You can check them out. But there's a lot of cool things coming, man. I got a whole bunch of like. There's even some things that I'm keeping secret right now, so we're gonna have to check back in a few weeks if you want, or a couple months or whatever to touch back. But this new project, this new album, like it blew me away, man. Like Maruga even said, he's like, so he played with the Weather Report as well, and he was even saying he's like this is what it felt like when we did the Weather Report. Like, this is the same feeling. It's like the same feeling that I had with, you know, Blues in the Rainforest. He's like, it's that level of music.
Wow, so, man. I'm really looking forward to hearing this stuff. That sounds really cool. Yeah. Is it, and it's, so that like on the site, it's kind of a networking site, but also your music and all that kind of stuff would be on that site too, right? The Boulevard site.
Yeah. It's a social media app. And it's like a music social media app. So like, they have founding artists that have channels on there. So you can go onto the channel and find links to everything. You can find all the music. You can find exclusive content on there, like some live streaming shows and things like that. They do different live streaming, but then also you can go there and like take lessons from people, from artists that are on there. They'll do different, like they'll post different lessons and different like techniques and things like that, and like little private content and stuff like that. And then there's also like, you know, they have like shops and merch stuff and everything available too. So
very cool.
Yeah.
And then your music obviously is you've got a catalog. Do you have stuff under your name much, or is it a lot of different bands, or you do have your own like solo stuff and sort of on iTunes and all that kind of Apple Music?
Yeah. So I have Justin James Bridges, and I have 4 projects out under Justin James Bridges right now. My first album came out in 2011. It's called Hang On for the Ride. I didn't realize how appropriate that title was.
Right, and that was before, obviously.
All of this. Yeah. Talk about premonition. So, but I had that. And then,
tell us about what you're wearing, man. Actually, tell us about your whole ensemble because it's pretty cool. And then particularly the necklace you're wearing.
Definitely. So, well, like I said, Muruga is a yogi and shaman and everything. So he blessed me with this dhoti, this Indian dhoti, while we were at the recording session. And
okay, tell us what a dhoti is for starters.
So a dhoti is like it's like a cloth, an Indian cloth. It's clothing. It is you can wear it as a spiritual shawl. You can wear it to protect yourself from the sun. You can wear it as a top or like a bottom, like a skirt almost, like a long dress kind of thing. So like there's tons. It's like a wrap. It's a bunch of different things you can wrap and stuff like that. But like it's Indian, like in India, it's like their native wear. And so he travels all over and has, traveled and studied under a bunch of yogis and a bunch of gurus all over the world. And so he blessed me with one of his dhotis that he had. And
awesome.
So
did he ever
go ahead?
Oh, it's so cliche because you think the Beatles and everyone just thinks Shankar, right? Did he ever meet him? Do you know?
Yeah.
In India, Ravi Shankar?
He studied with him.
Like he doesn't even play the same instrument, but he just went there and learned sitar for the fuck of it.
Yeah. He does.
Dude, your hat is like iconic. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I wear the top hat. Yeah, so he's that's where I wear a bunch of different random, fun stuff. The hat, I have different hats for my different personas. This is one of my Justin James Bridges one, the green top hat with the Texas flag and the Texas Clover logo that I wear on it. It's got a couple hat pins from places that I've been.
Nice.
A bunch of different fun little pieces. And then I have my go ahead.
I was wondering with the green, right? And when I met you, like I mentioned, you were in a band called Leprechaun Theory, which I think was you started that band. I made me stick.
Yeah.
Do you have like Irish roots by any chance?
Yeah, so I do have some Irish, but my birthday is St. Patrick's Day.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. And I'm a leprechaun.
It all checks out. You're actually a real life leprechaun. Oh, now it makes sense.
Yeah.
Where's that girl?
Like, how do you do all this stuff? I don't know. I'm a leprechaun.
All right, we're going to follow this motherfucker.
But then I just got this piece today, bro. Check this out. This is a glass chain made by Stony Chicken with a 15 mil opal that's in there.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's got a bunch of different colors. So the darker green is stardust, green stardust, and then the purple is purple lollipop, and then he's also got the clear, like the lighter green that you see right there is tropical green, which is like the clear kind of green, and then it goes back and forth between tropical green, green stardust, and purple lollipop all the way around. And then yeah, so he's got these available. He's got all sorts of dope chains that he makes. He's one of the best in the world at making glass chains.
Where is he located, and where can people get those online?
So he's in Arizona, and you can look him up on his Instagram, Stony Chicken, all one word, and no spaces or hyphens or any of that. He's the original Stony Chicken. But you can find him. He's got a bunch of stuff available on his Instagram, but he's also going to be available. He's starting to make the move and to get into like art galleries and things like that, and a little bit higher end galleries. He made this really awesome chandelier out of glass chains like this, but it's like,
wow,
tons of glass chains linked everywhere. It's insane. Yeah, but he did. It's amazing. Like I was really, really impressed and really blessed, and it's amazing. He made this week and sent this yesterday to make sure I had it for the interview tonight.
Oh wow, man, cool. You know how long it takes him to make a piece like that? Do you have any idea how long that took?
It took him like a day and a half, I believe.
Oh man,
because he's got a. It's like it depends on the because he has to bake it in the kiln as well, and
that's
it's a long
fast
process.
I know. That's why I was saying that. I thought it would have been much longer, actually.
Like I said, he's one of the best. He's one of the best in the world at it.
Wow, man. How'd you meet him?
So I was at a High Times event in Michigan, and we met through some mutual friends, and then his ride kind of bailed on him when we were in Michigan, and he's like, I don't know how I'm going to get to my next stop. And I was like, well, I'm going to the Boston Freedom Rally. You want to just hop on my tour bus? And he was like, yeah. And so hopped on my tour bus, and we went to New York and then went to Michigan, and had a good old time. Or went from Michigan to New York and then over to Boston for the Boston Freedom Rally. And
High Times, wasn't that a magazine, or is it still a magazine? Right.
Man, it's not. It's no longer in print, unfortunately. I was involved with High Times for a while, but a lot of their core staff left, and there's a new magazine that just opened that y'all should check out called Northeast Leaf. A lot of the Danny Danko, as well as a few other members of the core staff of like what High Times really was, went over to Northeast Leaf. So that magazine's going to have all the soul.
That was out of print.
It just happened. It happened because of COVID.
Okay.
Man, yeah. Let me rephrase that. They sold, and then there was some not so smart business practices that happened, and then they ended up laying everybody off when COVID happened, and then they stopped their print magazine. And they've been printing since the 70s, So,
I was going to ask when it started, but it seems like obviously print is just getting harder and harder to. I mean, I used to see there's certain places you go, like maybe Barnes and Noble still has a huge magazine section, but a lot of grocery stores and places you go, I used to always see the guitar magazines and stuff. You don't really see them there anymore. Like there's still print, but lesser and less. I think unless you're in a very specific place, like like if you're at a Planet K, you're going to probably see that, but you're not going to see it too many other places,
But there has been some cool magazines that have, right. There has been some cool magazines that have popped up in place, like Northeast Leaf and so depending on where you're at in the country, they have Northeast Leaf, they have Northwest Leaf. Northwest Leaf was the original one, so they call it the Leaf Nation, and so you can check out all those. Greenleaf Magazine is another magazine. They're on the East Coast. They're out of Boston. So there's some, and then 1000 Watts is another one that's been doing some printing. So there's some really cool stuff out there. Cincy Magazine is also doing some really cool things too. So.
Haven't heard of that.
Yeah, they've got a Cincy, SENSI. Cincy.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm just really stoked. Thank y'all for having me on, by the way, guys. I really appreciate y'all taking the time to talk to me.
Yeah.
Let me talk about all my craziness that is my life.
Absolutely, man. That's fascinating. So I may have asked earlier and totally forgot already. What are you doing in Texas right now?
So I had that recording session up in Michigan, and then I had a meeting in Oklahoma. I had some business meetings there, and then my family's in Texas, so I came down to visit them since we were so close. And then and then I have a meeting with the guy that puts on Reggae Fest in San Antonio. I have a meeting with him tomorrow, and so.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, working on a couple, networking with some people, meeting up with some people while I'm down here. I got a bunch of things in the works. So I've got some new hip hop stuff that's coming out with Yoshi out of Atlanta, and got all this stuff that I'm doing with Maruga, and working on starting filming for a reality TV show and different things like that. So Working on a bunch of projects.
What are things looking like on your end in terms of some of the festivals and stuff that you deal with in terms of getting any sort of live shows back together? It certainly looks like nothing's happening this year.
Yeah, we started to do some stuff. We started doing some drive-in concerts in Syracuse, and then
so you have done that, okay?
Yeah, a couple of them. We did a couple of drive-in concerts, but then they just recently, the governor put in a law to where if music is the main draw, then you can't have the event, even if you're following all the COVID restrictions and everything. It's kind of just an arbitrary rule. Nobody knows why he put it, because it wasn't really,
what's weird?
Affecting.
Dude, I'll be honest. I took it real seriously. I have asthma. I can't stand the whiny anti-maskers and all that stuff. Personally, look, we all cherry pick our science, both left and right, but shove it up your fucking ass but they don't work, and you just shut up and wear a mask. God damn it, we're in a pandemic. Just quit whining for 5 minutes and let's just try to be nice to each other. You know what I'm saying? That's my thoughts. I don't like it either. I don't think it's that big of, yeah, there you go, man. Amen. I don't feel like it's that big of a deal. Personally, anyone that knows me knows how I feel, but I am I'm not one of those people that's yes, we shut down. I was for it. I'm we're figuring things out. We all know we can't trust dick from our government, but vaccine in 2 weeks, vaccine. I don't believe in these fucking guys. I don't think any of them know what they're talking about. But dude, I understand. We can't just stay shut down forever. Shit has to happen. What's so frustrating? I saw, a meme or something about. It's infuriating, especially if you're a musician. Okay, so we can't have bars open. I understand the bar thing, because then you get irresponsible people, and then there you're getting drunk. You take your mask off. I get that. I understand the difference between bar and. But when you're stifling music and concerts and trying to. Why us? Why the artist? What, but meanwhile, God forbid you fucking shut down college fucking football. Oh no, you can't have a fucking concert, but you can cram 20,000 people into a fucking, stadium for a college football game, because that's big. To me, this says big business as always, right? Big business wins. Fuck you, little guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
And to me, it's also very much stifling and concerning anytime you start taking the voices away from artists, because that always says no, artists, we don't really want people who have
artists.
They're the danger,
change.
Right? Yeah, exactly. That's exactly. So sometimes I'm is this? It just seems a little concerning to me. Everything's kind of making it. I'm not everything, but boy, the bars are taking it the worst, and you start these live music venues start going under. It's as if we weren't fucked in the ass enough already, man.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Trying to make it as a musician, in that kind of circuit, it bugs me. It bothers me. I don't feel comfortable.
Man.
Yeah, you can't go to an outdoor venue to listen to some music, but you can go out and protest.
Right.
So that's another thing that's it's
very hypocritical.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just think the thing is
it, man.
And I'm don't get me wrong, I've been out to some protests, myself, and while we were out at the protests, what I have seen personally at the ones that I've been to is that at the protests everybody's masked up. All the people that are out there, they're being responsible about it.
You cannot just take away people's rights and freedoms. So I'm all for that, and I'm all for that's like Vic just said. You can't. Why one without the other?
Right.
People should have the right to protest. They should have the right to go to concert. If you're being safe, if you're following guidelines,
right.
But why are you just not even letting it be an option? That's the problem.
Right. Because we had figured it out. We had a place. We have a place up in Syracuse, Valley Blues House. I've been playing, jamming out there. My friend is the owner, Heidi, out there. We've been going out there and jamming, and they built an outdoor stage. And we're having people come out and play outdoor concerts, and they were having they can fit 50 cars back there. So a bunch of people just drive in and park in their cars. Everybody's socially distant. If you step out of your car, you're required to wear a mask. That was the rules. And then if you want to go up and order food or drink through the window, that's fine. Everybody's 6 feet apart and you wear a mask. It's that simple.
Stay safe. And I don't understand. Yeah, dude. What's ironic to me is I feel like the biggest enemy of this whole thing is the ones that are just crying freedom, refusing to wear a mask, because it's like, you're the one, you're, in my eyes, you're, by doing that, you're
prolonging it.
You know what I mean? And that's why, like, if everyone would go like, I'm going to follow the rules right now, and I'm not going to look at this as a huge infringement on my freedoms. Like I've said this before, if we're still here in 3 years or two years, let's talk. Okay. Why are we, but dude, like, let's all buy in for 6 months or a year. Like, how are our freedoms really being that affected by wearing a mask?
Exactly.
Are they really being that affected? And it's like, if that means businesses can stay open, dude, put your fucking mask on. You know what I mean? I mean, come on.
What, like, if
I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, in 1918 they had a plague like this too. They had a big, the 1918 Spanish flu came through. And everybody wore masks back then. It wasn't politicized
because they didn't have social media.
Right.
They didn't have a bunch of social media conspiracy theorists running around convincing people otherwise.
It's like, just wear a mask.
They read the papers that said, you're going to die if you don't wear a mask. And they were like, okay, I guess I'll wear a mask.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it really isn't that. I mean, if my 2-year-old and my 3-year-old daughters can wear a mask for the entire time that they are in the store, so can you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I just think there's much bigger problems and issues we should bitch about. It really boggles my mind. I know people that'll die on that hill. They won't give it up. I don't know, but yeah, I mean that's the one thing out of all this. I mean, other than the obvious that we're in a pandemic and people have died, and that of course, which is of course secondary to but my statistics. Oh well, fuck all the old people that have died. Let me show you my statistics.
Right.
It's just disgusting. It comes right back to what we were talking about.
Yeah, like
I got to one up you and prove something else. So anyway, man, like I think it's starting to get really concerning, and I hate seeing all these businesses and bars going under, like iconic places I've played it, you've played it, and it's just like, man, it is tragic.
Yeah, it's been insane, man. Like it's been really sad to see the bars that can't keep up, and the bars that are closing down, and venue, like you said, even venues. Like, that's the thing that's like the crazy part is, like, why can't an outdoor venue or an amphitheater be putting on concerts right now? Why can't you just have every group separated? They're doing it in Europe. They're having social distance concerts.
I mean,
they're doing it in football.
Like the NFL's
exactly.
Well, the college football, and you know more about this than me, Victor, because I think you watch college football more than I do. But because the NFL is, for the most part, is not doing much of that, right? And they got the fake crowd noise, and it's super weird. I know a few teams, like I think the Dallas Cowboys did, because they're God's team. Fucking Texas. A bunch of dickheads are going to go out there and it's all right to go watch the Dallas Cowboys.
They're America's team. God's team, the Steelers.
Get it right. Those are both too gross, double gross. Anyway, but it seems like with college football, right? They're allowing like a certain amount of people. Of course, it's not full capacity, but even if we're talking about 10, 20, 25,000, that is a shitload of fucking people.
Right.
If you can put 20,000 people in a stadium for a fucking football game, why the hell can't you put 500 people somewhere for a concert? You know what I mean?
And it's really not hard to socially distance outside, and it's really not like, if everybody wears a mask, like, just require masks and have hand sanitizing stations, guess what? That's half the battle right there. You know what I mean?
hate standing next to people outside. That's why I won't go to ACL Fest.
No, I think a lot of it. This is a win. This is a win. Like, dude, like let's jump on this and do it, because, like, I don't have to have some people all fucking close crowding my space.
Yeah, that's
great.
Awesome.
And I was in San Francisco, and we couldn't really do a lot with the whole state burning down and all that kind of stuff, and a lot of things are still closed, but the zoos were open. We went to the zoos, and like it was the same thing. It's like you had to make an appointment. There was only so many people that could go in at a time. You know what I mean? Yeah. And they had a lot of, it was really cool because there was a lot of hand sanitizing stations and stuff like that. And I thought, and everyone was wearing masks, and it's like, businesses can be open. Like we can make this work. We can adapt, but it has to be a consolidated effort.
But there has to be people wearing, like, you have to be willing to wear your mask. You have to be willing to just like
ironic. This country has the most ironic fucking name, the United States, and we're the biggest bunch of non-United crybaby fucking assholes not willing to work together. I mean, perfect example right now, you know?
Yeah, that's the
were the animals wearing masks,
right? Exactly. That's
actually, you know what was really funny was they had all the little animal statues and stuff at different. They all had masks on them. I thought it was really funny. Yeah,
I just thought it'd be hilarious if you had some zoo worker try to put a mask on like a lion or something. They're all scratched up. And shit.
That's good. That's money well spent right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, that just popped in my head when you talk about going to the zoo and everybody had masks on.
You know what? That's it'll happen. I'm sure it already is. Like because you see like Twitter zoo tweets or Instagram, and they've got all this like, you know, super cute shit. I'm sure it's just a matter of time before they're like, oh, well, it's going to start out real cute with like otters,
monkeys,
and then someone's going to try to put a mask on a fucking bear, and shit's going to go wrong.
Bear mask.
I thought it was cute.
Oh, speaking of bears, did you guys hear about the in some I don't know, some national park, someone got mauled, killed by a bear? It was like the first time it ever happened. Damn. By a grizzly. Yeah,
didn't hear about
really?
That.
Damn.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't wearing a mask. The bear was like, motherfucker. Oh, well, that's a terrible joke. I'm going to hell.
I wonder if it's because of the lack of people in those national parks. Aren't they closed, or are they just open up?
Yeah, it might be a really good point. You know, because we were seeing that too. It made me think of 12 Monkeys. Remember that movie?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's like fucking lions and shit are just running around New York City or whatever, and it's Philadelphia, I think it was. But yeah, because for a while there, when things were like super shut down, like there would be like weird incidences of like wildlife you would never otherwise see, like popping up in places.
Kicking it on the roads.
That's actually an interesting point, man. Some animals might be getting a little more comfortable.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, like, did y'all see the difference in the like skylines of different cities across the world from the pollution before and then the like after, like clear skies when no people are out at all? It's like that shows you right there.
Like, and the water too, right? Yeah, the water.
It's been insane.
Kind of interesting that you mentioned clear skies. I think I don't know if you guys saw the news that what's his name, Newsom, out in California. Was it they passed a law or something about it's only going to be electric cars in 2035 out in California?
That's cool.
Or something like that. Which
it sounds ambitious, but things are moving at such a fast rate. I don't know, you know?
Right.
Well, the thing is, I think a lot of the electricity from California comes from neighboring states, right? So if they're going to be, you know, having nothing but electric cars, they're going to be polluting because it comes from power plants, coal plants, things like that, right?
Well,
so neighboring states are
from the giant, like in Nevada, they have the giant like solar panel like farms, like massive,
but I think
football fields of solar panels.
Yeah, I think I saw something about secondary pollution caused by, you know, massive electricity use or something.
Yeah.
Well, what's going to happen is what always happens, right? It's like we try to find ways to do things better, and then there's always going to be. Then we're going to find, oh shit, there's a consequence to this too, cause and effect. All right. Then there's going to be issues that we find that we're not even conceiving that come from the electrical, you know, revolution or whatever. Just like the stuff that was going on in the 50s or whatever. And it's like, here, spray pesticides on your children, all good, you know, like, oops, third arm, cancer, you know, like, oh yeah, potato chips, great, microwaves, great, you know, and so with every shift like that, so I'm sure the same thing will happen, you know, and then we'll have. And then the progressives will be going, damn it, we need to burn coal. When things are out of control with this electricity. Erase history. Who cares what happened in 2020? It's 2040 now. That was a long time ago.
You say
this
that.
Is how dumb we are.
You say that
no,
in
it's
jest,
true.
But
yeah, well, no, I mean, we're a stupid fucking species. Like, you know, we're geniuses, but we're also fucking idiots. I mean, it's, you know, I mean, I have this apocalyptic view that we will all be eradicated by AI possibly before the end of the century, even, you know. So
all those electric cars, man, they're gonna
the cars are gonna turn. That's seriously, like, it's gonna be ridiculous. It's gonna be like Stephen King movies, like cars running people over by themselves, AI.
Maximum Overdrive, right?
Robots that have had enough. Like, it's gonna be crazy, man. It's gonna be like 2050. Like, it's just gonna be the craziest fucking shit, man.
As long as they chase the deer and elk over to Texas, so I can have some meat to store.
Yeah, well, that's going to be Texas is going to be like that safe haven of like the crazy hillbillies with like, and all the wildlife just flees here. And like, that's what's going to happen. A big wall gets built around Texas. It's like, you can make it sounds like John Carpenter hears this podcast. He's like, holy shit, I'm calling Kurt Russell. I got a movie.
We're doing it.
The final stand. Okay, so like, here's the thing. Like, Texas is like a prison, and like the robots are trying to get in, and there's like a fog. Somehow, Justin, you'll collaborate with him on the music. That's our next podcast in 20 years. You'll be like, oh yeah, I did the music for that new John Carpenter thing. Escape to Texas.
There's a what was it on South Park? The smug cloud. The smug cloud's moving in.
Smug cloud. Oh, that's hilarious.
So were people smelling their own farts out there in San Francisco?
I wasn't able to get outside enough to know.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I will tell you something really funny. We were my girlfriend and I were like, now fiance. So only you guys know that. And thank you.
Can't go to Vietnam.
I love the way I don't put it anywhere, and I just like announce it on the podcast. So like, I'll know who listens to this podcast now. Like one person will be like, "Holy shit, dude! Congratulations!" I'm like, "Oh, you actually listen to my podcast? Thanks for being cool, man." But anyway, so my fiance got a fucking air purifier, right? I mean, obviously that's a hot item out there right now. And I think for two reasons. One, because of all the fires, and we had to keep the windows shut. And it was nuts. I mean, everyone saw the orange sky photos, and like, we're just sitting there looking out the window like, this is insane. But also, as to Victor's point, just to keep the smug out of your apartment as well. Like, you know, so it's kind of a double. But anyway, so she got this air purifier when I was out there, and she had told me like it's supposed to be real sensitive. And in passing, and mentioned how like my brother had said, because him and his wife have one, like it'll actually can sense your farts and will come on because the air changed or whatever. And so the day she got it, like she was all stoked, and I was like doing other shit, not really paying attention. And then she kept saying like throughout the day, "Did you just fart?" And I'm like, "What the fuck? Like, no, like, huh?" And I'm like, I wasn't computing it. And then like I walked by and it would like come on. She's like, "Did you just fart again?" I was like, "What the fuck?" And then I realized it was like every time like that purifier came on, she was like, "Was that you?" So then, of course, I was like having to like wait for her to go to the bathroom to try to like fart on the thing to see if it works. But you know,
oh man,
I can picture you.
Wasn't me. It's air. It's the outside air. It's the wildfires. I know they smell like fart, right? It's crazy.
That's hilarious. Man, when was the first time we played together, bro? We've been playing. That's a long time ago.
I want to say it was. I think it was. Man, it was definitely a Good Rogerings original lineup.
Yeah.
Probably like 2009.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. 2008, end of 2008, early 2009.
Yeah. Those were the first shows we ever played, and I think it was before our EP even came out. We had a little like demo.
I remember
that I had like a 4-song demo. Yeah,
I have that somewhere in storage. I need to find that.
Yeah. We originally it became long overdue, but we originally called it the Living Room Debacle because I think they were kind of songs that we had just kind of put together. My brother and me, and then Blaine Mott, who was another one of the original members, original bass player, and he was like. Who I'm actually working with him right now on another project, which I've been saying for a long time, but it's kind of like finally coming to fruition. And we had played together in a few different things, but yeah, him. And then we got our drummer, Mike Molina, Mr. Nub. But yeah, it's like those songs were kind of written just like in our old apartment, and we went in to do a demo. And yeah, so I think that band was like, you literally met us when we were first starting, dude. Like we were probably still playing cover songs, and who the fuck knows what we were doing back then, but. And,
that was fun,
I remember we had a fun time. Was that at Gold Crown Billiards?
Yeah, we played at Gold Crowns, and we played at Red Eyed Fly a bunch together.
Oh yeah, Red Eyed Fly. And dude, there was another place too. Actually, the only time I ever played it was with you, somewhere else in San Marcos, but I have no idea what it was called. It was probably long gone. But yeah, you're right. We did play at Red Eyed Fly a few times. So we played several shows together back then.
Oh, did you play with me at Gordo's?
That might be it. In San Marcos?
Yeah, the theater?
I don't think it was a theater.
Okay.
It was more of a bar, I think. I just remember one other place that I can't remember. But I haven't played San Marcos a ton. I've only played like maybe 4 venues there. So. Yeah. Are you playing any shows while you're down here? I mean, as we talk about how no one can play shows right now.
So there is in San Antonio, my buddy is doing a hip hop show. They're allowed to have 75% capacity at restaurants and things like that. So this restaurant is actually a restaurant venue.
What is it called?
I honestly don't know the name of it.
It's not Sam's Burger Joint, is it?
I don't think so.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool place.
But they're so yeah, it's a hip hop show. My buddy's Frank White, DJ Frank White is going to be spinning that, and he hit me up and asked if I would come do a little appearance and drop in. So I have a meeting Saturday afternoon with some people out there. So I'm gonna swing by the venue, go drop in and do a little appearance. But nothing really big down here. It's mostly been visiting and setting up some meetings and talking with some people, and then. I'm really focused on this project that we're doing with Da Boom and Booker and Bridges. So the cool thing with Booker and Bridges, like where that title came from, Maruga Booker played with John Lee Hooker for Hooker and Booker. That was Maruga Booker.
Wow.
And so he's passing that on. So they had Hooker and Booker, and now we've got Booker and Bridges. And so.
That's amazing. That's so cool.
Passing on that vibe. Yeah, it was really cool. It was really cool. One of the songs, I believe we're gonna call the album "Paid Your Dues," and one of the songs that it's the only one where Maruga sings the main vocals on the song. He tells the story of how John Lee Hooker called him while he was at his mom's house, and to ask him to come play with him. And so,
wow,
yeah, it's pretty cool.
You know what year that was?
1965, I think.
Wow, golly, man.
Yeah,
that's
so
crazy.
He played with so Tony Newton, who played bass he was the bass player for the Temptations, and he was the musical director for the Miracles, and with Motown, and he was also the bass player for Michael Jackson. He did ABC 1, 2, 3, and all that. So he's Jackson 5, Michael Jackson, all of it. Him and Maruga played together at the Village back in 1958. And
wow.
Back then, Tony was a saxophone player and a keyboard player. And they went to a show, and the owner of the club was like, y'all can't play, like, that black guy can't play in the venue. And Maruga went up to him and was like, well, if he don't play, we don't play. And so the guy let them play, and they became regulars there. And while they were playing, one day their bass player couldn't show up, but they had the rig and everything there. And Maruga told Tony, he's like, can you play bass tonight so that way we can get paid for this gig? And Tony played bass and sat in on bass instead of playing sax and keys that night. And after the show, Maruga went over and was like, man, he's like, you've got to do this. He's like, you've got to do this. He's like, you're a better bass player than our bass player. Like, this is what you should do. And then, they kind of went on their own paths and didn't see each other for 40 years. And in that 40 years, Tony went off and did all this stuff with Michael Jackson and Motown and all that stuff. And Maruga went off and did all this stuff with P-Funk and Blues in the Rainforest and all that, all that crazy stuff. And then 40 years goes by and they meet back up, and they were actually studying under the same guru. And so
wow.
Yogi Swami Baba.
Is that how they reconnected? Like, is it kind of accidentally?
Yeah. So they just they just caught up ran into each other, and we're talking, and he's like, I've been training under this one yogi, this one guru. And have you heard of this guru? And Muruga was like, yeah, he's like, that's my guru too. He retained a breath for 35 minutes playing the tabla, retaining one breath. And playing the tablas for 35 minutes on one retained breath. Locked in an airtight chamber. Their yogi did. And so
is there yogi David Blaine?
No. I cannot remember how to pronounce his name correctly, so I don't want to slaughter his name. But
what was the instrument?
The tabla drums, like the Indian drums.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And so he was playing that, but so what they did, the story that I was told was that he was put in an airtight chamber and with a monkey, and then they lit a candle, and the monkey died after like 6 minutes or 10 minutes or something like that. And so there was no oxygen left in the container, and he continued to play the drums for 36 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Retaining one breath.
That's one of the craziest things I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Like that's
crazy. It's a percussive instrument too. So, yeah. I mean, I can't imagine like how much energy you're spending.
And it's not holding your breath. He retained his breath. So like he just retained that one breath for 36 minutes playing the drums. So wow. Yeah, so they trained under that same yogi, and then kind of reconnected, and then like they were like, yeah, I trained under that yogi, and like that's who I trained under, and so they ended up reconnecting on that. And then Muruga told Tony about me and what I was doing and bringing in, and Tony wanted to be a part, so he joined in, and he's on the first 2 songs for Da Boom, DABOOM, Da Boom. That's our electronic album, like our trance, shamanic, psychedelic dance album. And then we did Booker and Bridges, like I said, where he tells a story about how he met John Lee Hooker and everything like that. Like Muruga is just a wealth of rock and roll history and music history. It's insane. Y'all definitely need to have Muruga on the podcast sometime. And
man, I'd love that. If you want to put us in touch,
I will definitely put y'all in touch. He was excited that I was talking about I told him I was doing the podcast and told him about that going to be promoting the albums and talking about that on there, and he was super excited about it. And so yeah,
awesome, man. Yeah, that'd be great to chat with him for sure.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, so you had mentioned about interpreting for the deaf, which is kind of an interesting skill. Is that something you did as a job at one point in time, or?
Yeah. So I started doing sign language when I was a freshman in high school. There was a deaf kid on my wrestling team who was an amazing wrestler, and I wanted to learn from him, but I couldn't talk to him. So I started learning sign language, and he started teaching me sign language. And then I got into the sign language classes my sophomore year of high school, and ended up making a bunch of deaf friends through high school. And just when I moved back from Florida to Texas, the school I ended up going to in Houston was the magnet school for all the deaf students in the area for the whole district. And so I was like thrown into deaf culture with a bunch. I had a bunch of deaf friends and just kept signing, and ended up being an interpreter for the deaf right out of high school. I was interpreting for the schools that I just I ended up interpreting for the district I had just graduated from. I ended up being an interpreter for the deaf as a substitute. And then, I was coaching and playing different sports and everything. Then I went off to college for a little bit. And then I had an opportunity. I became the interpreter for the deaf for Texas State University's men's soccer team for 2 years. They had a deaf player on their team. And so I was his interpreter for 2 years. And then, I was also the head coach of the women's lacrosse team at the same time that I was interpreting there. So.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up too, that you had done some coaching. I in regards to the deaf and music, though, have you ever played a concert for deaf people or anything like that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's really interesting. It happened to me sort of accidentally, something I didn't realize I was doing. I don't think the band knew at all.
Yeah.
When we played at this place, Docs, on Deaf Night, and we were like, what the hell? Like, it didn't make sense. And then they were like, no, they love it.
Yeah.
So tell us about that, man. I'm sure you got some good insight into that.
Yeah. So deaf people love music. They can feel the vibrations of it. You know what I mean? So especially going to clubs and like places where you can feel the dance vibe and you can feel the beat and you can feel the heartbeat of the drum and it vibrates your body. Like you don't need to hear that to feel it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, Beethoven was deaf.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he used to lay on the floor. He cut the legs off his piano and lay on the floor to play so he could feel the vibrations. It's all, you know, sound is energy. It's all vibrations. Everything is vibrations, you know? And so, yeah, just because you can't hear it doesn't mean you can't feel it. And with me, I have, there's been a couple shows where I've had interpreters signing all the songs while I'm performing them, you know, and when I'm doing shows where I'm not playing my guitar or I'm just singing a song or I'm talking and everything like that, like I'll do, and if there's deaf people in the crowd, I'll interpret what I'm saying in between songs and things like that. But yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
I definitely, I love playing to the deaf crowd.
Did you
super
did
into
you
music.
guys ever have you ever heard of or read that book Think and Grow Rich? Do you know that of that book?
I've heard of it,
really
but I
famous
haven't read it.
self-help book. Yeah, so the author of that was a speaker. It's pretty interesting, like just his story, Napoleon Hill.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, he wrote this book, I think, in maybe the 30s, and it's a really kind of a monumental thing that's been around for years and years.
Yeah.
But his son was deaf, and there's a really interesting story in there about his son who was born without ears or something crazy, and ended up being instrumental and I don't know if he was a guinea pig or something, but he works with deaf people, got some device where you can now hear, But as a kid, he said I guess they didn't know immediately. And then but one of the first signs that he saw with his child that was inspiring to him was he found that his kid would sit with his teeth touching a record and he could hear it like from the vibrations with his teeth. I thought that was really interesting. Yeah. So yeah, it's like when that first happened to me, I was like, this is so surreal and bizarre. And then someone was like, no, like they're, like you said, the vibrations and the feeling of it. It's a whole different way of obviously interpreting the music, but It was really, really cool, you know? So one of our guests we had on the show is blind, and just all the things that she's done is amazing. And it's just like, man, people like, it's pretty amazing the way human beings can adapt, you know? But yeah, that's really cool, man. So go to the coaching. What got you into that whole thing?
So I played sports all through high school, started playing sports in junior high. I started doing martial arts when I was 10 years old. And so, I'd always done athletic stuff, got into football, wrestling, and lacrosse, and ended up doing cheerleading all in high school. And then I did, I played a little bit of like men's leagues, lacrosse, like some smaller leagues out of college, and then played, I was a cheerleader in college. And but I started coaching wrestling when I was a junior in high school. When I moved from Florida to Texas, the people I was training under in Florida, the wrestlers I was training under were just incredible. One of the guys went 40-0 as a state champion in Florida, John Godwin, and then he later on went on to win multiple national titles in college as a college wrestler. So he's the one that trained me. And then the school that I moved into, they didn't have a very strong wrestling program. And my first day in there, everybody in my weight class, I pinned in really short periods of time. And then I wrestled with the coach and ended up pinning the coach the first day I was there. He was like, maybe you should help me do some assistant coaching. And so I got into it and started
wrestling.
Yeah. Got into it and started helping him. And then I started teaching I started coaching like little kids flag football and stuff like that. And then I got into coaching cheerleading and doing choreography for dance and stuff like that. I actually have 4 national titles for coaching cheerleading. And then
wow, man,
yeah. And then
so it sounds like you were really into sports and the coaching and all that. Where did music start to come into things for you? Has that always been a part of your life, or was that more later where you started playing music?
Much later. I was almost 21 the first time I picked up a guitar.
Okay.
And so I was so like I said, my songs come from dreams. So I was having all these dreams with all these like crazy songs in it that I'd never heard before. And I was like, I don't even know where this music is coming from. And then, my friends were playing guitar all the time around me, and I was in college, and I was just like, maybe I should play guitar. Maybe I should give that a try. And my friend let me borrow his guitar, like just let me pick on his guitar one day. And I kind of mimicked what I saw him doing and was like, oh, this feels kind of good. And so I told my family that I wanted to get a guitar and start playing. And at the time, my uncle was managing Pat Green, Texas country singer. And my mom told my uncle I wanted to play. He told Pat. Pat gave him one of his one of the like sponsor guitars or whatever, and that was given to me for Christmas. And picked it up.
Wow, that's not a story everyone has, that your first guitar just like came straight from Pat Green.
Yeah. Unfortunately, somebody stole that while I was on tour. Somebody broke into my house in Portland while I was on the road and stole that guitar. Yeah, that was a rough one. But I once I picked that guitar up, I couldn't put it down. I played literally 12 hours a day for the first 3 years that I had guitar, that I started playing. I was playing 12 hours a day. I was giving up sleep, school, work, whatever I had to give up to make sure I played 12 hours every day. And I did that for the first 3 years that I picked up a guitar. And
so you just got the bug, and that it was like that was it. That was the shift, and then you were a musician.
Yeah. Then I quit everything else.
You sing, you write, you rap, and you guitar.
Yeah, and I do a lot of different. Like I was learning to freestyle because I'm from being from Houston, graduating in Houston and everything with Swishahouse and Lil Flip, and like listening to all these guys freestyle back then. So everybody in Houston freestyles, and started picking up on that. Mm-hmm. And then I was rapping a little bit, and then I started playing more guitar and diving into that, and just rapping a little bit on the side. But
so were you rapping before guitar though, or
yeah, I was freestyling before playing guitar, but not really. I was that year, when I was 20.
Freestyle whispering into people's ears when you were pinning them, just trash talking wrestling.
I did do a lot of trash talking when I used to wrestle.
Are you that in terms of guitar and music theory? You're pretty much self-taught, right? Do you have much background in any kind of training, or just all?
I'm self-taught.
Ear dude, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've learned many things along the way. You know what I mean? My theory has developed along the way, and I've gotten to, I kind of pick things up from every person I play with, and every person that I see play. Okay. You know what I mean? I've learned things from watching you play. You know what I mean? Back in the day, I was like, oh, that's how you do that noise. You know what I mean? So there's definitely I'm kind of like a sponge. If I hear something that catches my ear, sure. I'll try to figure out how to do it. But that's really led me to that's why I have such an eclectic style. You know what I mean? That's why I can bounce from genre to genre to genre with no issue.
Is there any particular or specific, or I guess any favorites that you listen to that kind of that would be like your base, right? That you kind of build off of? Is there any kind of influences, guitar players out there aside from Skunk there?
Yeah, I used to listen to Jimi Hendrix, Muddy Waters, Lightning Hopkins, Stevie Ray Vaughan, obviously, but also Prince and the Doors, the Beatles. I would just listen to a lot of that, and then, but also, on the flip side of that, I listen to a lot of Judas Priest, and a lot of old school heavy metal,
Tipton and Downing.
So I'm a huge, I listen to as much as possible, you know what I mean, and kind of take things off of that. And one of the things that I used to do to teach myself how to play is I would put on music that normally people wouldn't play guitar to, and I would find the spots in that music and play and jam along to that, So I was playing guitar to techno music and playing guitar to hip hop, and back in when I was starting to learn how to play, and then would sit there and like figure out how to play to those, and then figure out how to play. Like I would just put on a song and like try to figure out how to play with it, you know, and find the open spots, and listening to chords and listening to all the old blues players and everything like that, and listening to, because at first I thought I was just going to be a rhythm guitar player and a writer, you know, and then I had a lead guitar player playing with me, and we had a big concert coming up. We were playing at South by Southwest, and my lead guitar player decided that they were going to do a different project and weren't going to move on with Leprechaun Theory, which was, you know, we were just going our different directions. And so I had to teach myself how to play lead guitar, you know, and
funny how that happens. I think the longer you're a musician, especially in this day and age, it's like, well, I guess I'll just learn how to. I think all get to a point too when you're more in, you know, you write your own music and you're a band leader. Like I like being in bands where there's multiple people that have kind of been band leaders in different bands, and everyone kind of like knows like how, you know, no one's coming in green these days.
That's
we've
right,
been around the block, no,
yeah,
but
the boom.
But you kind of have to know, like. Yeah, and you're like, I mean, especially God, working with guys of that caliber, man, that's so cool. But like, you're going like, yeah, cool. Here's what I want. You know, I can play enough of this instrument or that instrument to kind of get the idea across. Let a pro come in and do what I can't do, and then knowing a little bit in the studio world, and just knowing, you know, I think you got to be a man. You know, back to your hats. You got to be a man of many hats.
Yeah,
you know, in this day and age. You know,
it's true. It's true. Yeah, and it was a blessing to get to work with somebody like Maruga, you know, where we could just sit there and vibe. And, you know, he was like, I want you to stay for at least a week. He's like, I got the guest room at the house and the studio's out back. So, you know, we wake up, we have breakfast in the morning together, and then we go outside to the studio and get to work, you know.
Living the dream, man.
And so, yeah, it was great, man. Like,
amazing.
And we got to just dive in and just that's how we did this. You know, that's how we were able to record 2 albums in 1 week, you know.
Do you have a what's your gear? Do you have a pretty consistent set of gear that you use, or are you kind of all over depending on the circumstances and where you're at?
It varies depending on what I'm doing. I have a couple different guitars I'm using right now. I have my hollow body that you've seen that I played back in the day, my hollow body Art Core. I still have her, babe. And I've been playing, you know, I was using, you know, back in the day I used to use that half stack for a while. I was playing through a Marshall half stack, and then I switched over to I got a Fender DeVille 410.
Love those
that I was playing through, and I love it. You know.
Speaking of stolen gear, I had one of those, man. I got fucking stolen.
Yeah, I hate thieves.
Love Fender amps, yeah.
But yeah, and then I randomly came across. I was walking around in a Guitar Center, and I saw this like weird looking amp, and I went over and checked it out, and it was one of the Fender Pawn Shop series, and it's called the Fender Rampart, and it is a single 12-inch speaker with a tube that's like this big around. And so It's got this giant tube. It's got multiple tubes, but just this one massive tube in the back. And then it has 2 inputs and 2 volume knobs. It's got a cool input and a hot input, and a cool volume and a hot volume, and that's it.
Is it a pretty vintage amp, I'm guessing?
Yeah. Well, it's made after a vintage amp. It's one of their newer series. You know, I got it probably 5 years ago. Okay. But you plug so the custom guitar, I have a custom guitar made by Jim Hyatt, who is the same guy that made Kebmo and Taj Mahal's customs. She's made out of a 120-year-old oak piano.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it's got a tiger maple neck with an ebony fretboard, big old baseball bat neck. My signature inlaid in the fretboard. It's a really unique body style. It looks kind of like a Tele, but it's got a scroll at the top of the body and at the top of the head. Texas special pickups with a 4-way switch. First position is bridge pickup. Second position humbucks between the two. Third position is neck pickup, and then fourth position sets him out of phase like a P90.
So wow, that's cool.
Yeah, so I have.
Who came up with that? Was that your
Jim Hyatt?
Is that what you wanted there?
No, Jim Hyatt did that. He had me come in and play like 30 different guitars for him. And he's like, here, play this one. All right, now play this one. And he just had me play. And like, you know, I was there for like a couple days and just played and played and played and played. And then he, after listening to me play and seeing how I play and like telling me all these different things to do and like listening and watching what I do, he went back and hand carved my guitar for the way I play. And like made the neck for the way I play, made the, like, everything is set up for me. And it is the most incredible guitar I've ever played. You know,
how'd you meet him? How'd that relationship come about?
So when I was living in Portland, I met my mentor, my buddy Larry Kirk, LK, rest in power, brother. He passed in 2015, unfortunately, from his battle of cancer. Long crazy story, but he was already on cannabis and everything. He was a cigarette smoker for like 45 years and then quit, but it had already done the damage. But he had lung cancer that metastasized, went to his spine and went to his brain, and we ended up killing the brain tumor using cannabis, but we couldn't stop the tumor on his spine. But so that's just a little backstory on him. So Larry was my mentor. We met when I first moved to Portland, and I played at Portland Hempstock. He was the guy that did all the backstage interviews at Portland Hempstock. He was also on Oregon, board member of Oregon Normal, and he was a photographer for High Times and a bunch of things like that. And so he kind of took me under his wing and was managing me for a while. We were doing a bunch of gigs together and everything. And, you know, he met me before I was put in the wheelchair and then knew me after, and we became really close after I was put in the wheelchair. And he saw that, like, even from the wheelchair, I was pushing for, you know, positive change. You know what I mean? And he said that really inspired him. So he kind of pulled me under his wing and took me into the High Time scene and took me around, and we went down to San Francisco, where Jim Hyatt was living at the time, and went down to Haight-Ashbury. Jim was living on Clayton Street right off the Haight. And so we went down to his garage that was down there, and I was in the wheelchair at the time, and we were all jamming, and we ended up throwing like an impromptu party at Jim's house just out in the street. And like, even the cops showed up and were like, hey, we haven't seen something like this since the 60s. Thanks, guys. This is pretty cool. And like, let us have a party outside. And so we partied. That's awesome. Yeah, it was really cool. And so we had like this awesome party with a bunch of really cool musicians coming out, and everybody was jamming together, and I performed a bunch from my wheelchair. And after I got done performing, Jim comes over and he's like, I want to make you a guitar. And I was like, cool. Not realizing it was the Jim Hyatt. Like, because I had heard the name Jim Hyatt and I knew that he was a luthier, but it didn't click, you know? And then like everybody just froze and turned and looked at me. And I was like, yeah, that's awesome, man. Thanks. And so we were talking and like just kept on going. And then somebody came up to me and they're like, do you realize what just happened there? And I was like, Jim's going to make me a guitar. He's like, yeah, Jim is making you a guitar. And I was like, wait, that's the Jim Hyatt? They were like, yeah. I was like, oh. So
yeah. That's cool, man. That's like a super cool story on many levels.
Yeah. And the guitar here, hold on one second. She's sitting right here. Give me just a second.
I wish we had better visual. We get to see cool shit at least.
Yes.
Oh yeah, man. That's badass. That's so cool.
So this is,
hey, when I saw you a while back in San Marcos, did you have that on you? What did you have then?
I don't know if I had this one when you came through. Probably my hollow body. Yeah. But yeah, so she's made out of a 120-year-old oak piano. You can see all the old scroll holes from the piano and everything. She's got the scroll in there. My signature.
Oh, cool. Yeah, literally your signature.
Yeah, he inlaid my signature.
I love the little, what do you call it? The little roll thing
the
at
scroll,
the top.
Yeah.
Scroll, that actually reminds me, too. It makes me think of Prince. Yeah.
Yeah.
Prince is an influence of mine.
Yeah. That's really cool, man.
That's where that's where some of the crazy like speed licks and like little flash things that I do came from. You know,
And you kind of got like the telly kind of look.
Vibe.
Yeah. It's like
Telecaster vibe.
Yeah, it's a little bit shorter than a telly. Like the body is a little bit shorter and fatter. But yeah,
so it has a big fat neck though.
Oh yeah, big old baseball bat neck. I mean, it's a big neck.
I was actually surprised when I played some Telecasters like that and actually really enjoyed it, man. I really like it's a very different feel than a shreddy type guitar, but like I love being able to just dig in on those fat necks, man.
Oh yeah.
And said it was a maple neck with an ebony fretboard.
A tiger maple neck with an ebony fretboard, yeah.
Yeah. Tiger maple, what does that mean?
It's a different type of maple tree. It's got like if you look at it, it's got like the tiger stripes in it.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
That's awesome, dude. Very cool.
Yeah, so you could see how thick that neck is.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Nice.
Yeah, I love this little guitar, man. She's it's the most, and like the thing is that like when you plug her in, the tone is just incredible, and it's so unique. You know, that combination of that Fender Rampart amp in combination with this guitar, with the control that I have of the tone on the tone knob on this guitar, it's just phenomenal. I have it's beautiful, really warm sounds that still cut through everything.
Yeah, real streamed down and real authentic. I love that. You know, like that's old school. You know, and you're not running through a bunch of processing. It's just your fingers, your instrument, and you're in an amp. You know, and a tube and a speaker.
Volume and tone.
Yeah, and the thing is that I do, like, you know, I still do all the crazy echoes that people get from pedals and all the different things and sounds that you get from pedals. It's just I get it by playing my technique, the way I play with my hands and the way I, you know, mute things or pick speed picks and like muffle part of the picks and things like that. That's how I get all the phase sounds and stuff like that. I'm not using phasers and all that different stuff. I'm using, you know, just a style of play, you know? So,
yeah, interesting you bring that up. I went down a rabbit hole last week and I was watching a whole bunch of Smashing Pumpkins interviews and just songs, and Billy Corgan was talking about that. I think he said he hung out with Tony Iommi, right? And basically all that dude does is just plug straight into the amp and just, you know, somebody told him, he goes, yeah, I got a tone knobs and volume knobs, and that's how I get my sound. That's it. And then I didn't realize how good a guitarist Billy Corgan was.
Yeah, he's amazing.
And yeah, he said that just changed his whole mentality on playing guitar. So now he tries to get, you know, as raw as he can, and you know, just kind of like some of the folks that he's admired over time.
Yeah, so. I mean, yeah, because like a lot of my like original stuff, you know, like I got, you know, after Leprechaun Theory, when I really started to like take off with some stuff, is I started playing in the Houston Blues Society, you know, and playing with all those cats. So I wasn't really, I was doing more like that old soul feel, you know, and so like I play the same way on an acoustic that I play on an electric. You know, I get the same speed picks, the same sounds, but it just fuller with the acoustic sound, you know. So I started playing acoustic first and filling as much sound as possible by myself as a solo artist. And I've kind of used the tricks from that into like playing with a band, you know? So.
Yeah, there's something to be said for that. I mean, to be able to just pick up something and play it raw and you know, there's the bass right there, right? Not having to rely, and then everything else is just icing on the cake. You use it if you want it, you know, but you're not relying on it, you know.
Yeah, and it's a different ball game when you can come out and play, just plug straight in and play, and not have to like, I don't have to worry about a pedal board going out or anything like that, you know, like none of that is ever an issue. It's just plug in and rock it.
Yeah, no, that's nice. Yeah, that's nice. That's obviously nice too. I mean, I've kind of gone back and forth. Sometimes I've had setups with several pedals, and got, a processing unit and blah, blah, and it's cool, but I'm lazy and I suck at all that. And I'm just like, all right, here's a wah pedal. I have a distortion and I have like I do like having a chorus pedal, but and a little, but pretty simple. I don't like getting too complicated because it just gets like my brain hurts. But if the main thing is like, having a good tone coming from the amp, I think first and foremost.
And I started doing something where I would so it has that cool input and that hot input on my amp. So I turn the hot, I set both of them before the show, and I'll be playing in the cool input for most of it. But when it's time to like get after it, we're playing more hard songs or I'm going into a solo where I need to kick it up. I literally walk over to the amp, pull and plug and start rocking in a different tone,
Yeah, no, that's nice too. Like you do have some just diversity, just from that, 2 different plugins. Kind of like having a distortion, or an overdrive, basically.
Exactly
just
what
like
it is.
Pushing it a little harder.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what you were saying, Vic, about Billy Corgan, I think, everyone starts in a different place with different influences. And for me, I started kind of as the rock, as Guns N' Roses and then Metallica and all that. So I started in the rock metal world, and I kind of had a little bit of a mentality, I think, in the beginning. It was like, if you're not playing guitar solos, you suck. And guitar, you can't play guitar solo, you suck. And then you get to where you go, it's always fascinating to me too, to find out how many, virtuoso guru guitar players actually love guys that you would never think. You're like, what? That dude doesn't do solos like you. But I think there's something to be said. There's a lot of guitarists and musicians that aren't flashy, but their tone and their choice
John
and
Lee
their
Hooker
phrases and all that. Yeah. And the blues guys, who just, and then you invent signature styles within yourself, and you do your own thing. So it's not always about, certainly not always about flash and flare at all, and I think the longer I played, of course, the more I appreciate different styles of music and artists and all this, but also that just different tones, different approaches to even like, that's what's so fascinating too, just like to just be able to like look at an instrument that has been played one way or that is, played in a variety of ways pretty consistently, and to like really turn it up on its head and come up with some really outlandish shit. Like, it's like, and that's where some of those guys you think about, I don't think anyone's really reinventing the wheel, but I think like when someone like Jack White came out, you could go like, well, that dude doesn't do anything, he sucks, but that's what made it so cool. He was like, it was much more about simplicity, but with a lot of tone and a lot of attitude, Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's not about flashiness and technical perfection. It's about exactly what you said, man. So yeah, it's always the intent, and like what's the music trying to say, and what's appropriate for the music, I think. And so the artist sort of defines that, and that becomes their style. And great artists, that's what they do. They kind of have signature styles because of that.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's been, it's like, seriously, this whole process that I've been doing, and I'm still involved in this process, we're still working on it together. We're actively, like I was talking to Maruga right before we set this up. That's why I was running a little behind. So we're,
it took us a minute to be like, it's been a few, like, it did.
It's been a little bit.
Check 1 2.
Yeah. What microphone am I using?
Wait, hey, why don't I hear myself? Hello. Yeah, you're good, man. You're 2 minutes late was not a big deal, believe me.
But yeah, it's
fuck this guy, man. We're done. Fucking hippie can't even be 7 p.m. God damn it.
I was sitting there for 15 minutes trying to figure out how to make this thing open, and then I had to open it.
No, you were on top of it, man. Like, you hit me up, and I saw my phone had like gone off, and I was like, oh shit. It was like 6:45 or something. Then I hit up Victor and I was like, yeah, we're doing this. And then literally we were like on the call for like 5 minutes, like testing our micro. Well, let me try this. So it was actually perfect.
Nice.
Yeah, no, man, this has been great, dude. Thank you so much for coming on, man. This is and congratulations on your family, on your success. It sounds like things are going pretty well in New York, and you're loving the super cold, shrink your balls weather.
That's why I'm down here in Texas.
Great to have you back. Well, not a bad. How long are you down here for?
So I will be here. I got my meetings Saturday, and then Sunday going back down to Houston. Spend a couple more days with my family, and then going to see my grandmother on my way out of town. And then I will be back up in Michigan for about a week to knock out the rest of the album. Any overdubs we need to do, any little last minute edits and everything before it goes to the final mixing and mastering process.
Awesome,
so we're going to knock that out. And we're shooting for end of the year release for both albums. To be out before the end of the year. And so
like same time, double release sort of thing?
I don't know if we're going to do the same. It's two different personas, so I don't know if we're going to do, it's two different bands, so I'm not sure. We're trying to decide how we're going to do the release. We'll probably stagger them a little bit. But we're talking about putting together some big productions for Da Boom. The star power that's on there alone. I mean, with all these other artists that Maruga brought in, and then with, me meeting Amico through Boulevard and bringing Amico on board, and, now getting to play with, someone that represents Hammond, Oregon, So
yeah, no, it's amazing, man.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Awesome stuff, dude. Awesome stuff, man. It was awesome having you on
Thanks
here, dude.
Very much,
really,
man. I appreciate you having me.
This has been such a cool way to catch up with people, and like as always, you got a bunch of cool things happening, man. And so glad to see you just having some really cool, interesting success right now. And please keep us posted. We'll have to get you back on here in the future.
Yeah,
yes, sir.
Absolutely.
And hopefully play a show again someday.
Yeah, I would love.
I mean, if we got to be
to get together again.
People in their cars, you and I, we have to be in like in those cocoons, like in Spinal Tap. So be it. Like, yeah, just like whatever, man.
Give me my hamster wheel. I'm down.
Let's do it.
I want to give another shout out to Stoney.
Cool, brother. Always.
Oh, man.
Thank you very much, Stoney Chicken.
Yeah, man. Plug anything you want.
Yeah, definitely check him out. Like I said, we got the 2 albums, Da Boom coming out, and Booker and Bridges. Da Boom, Wonderland, and ONE Wonderland, and with Booker and Bridges, it's Paid Your Dues. So definitely got all those things coming out, and then gonna have a whole bunch of fun stuff coming soon.
Cool. And Boulevard Sounds, which you're involved in now up in Canada, and kind of just starting to blow up. New social network for musicians.
And then also you can check out
Justin
my
James
website.
Bridges.
Yeah, justinjamesbridges.com will be relaunching soon. So that one will be, we're rebuilding that site right now. And then I also have maddabber710.com for some of the other cannabis related things. So check it out.
Cool deal, man.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank y'all very much, man. I really appreciate y'all having me. Blessings to everybody. Much love.
Absolutely, brother.
And
appreciate
cool deal,
it.
bro.
Yeah, man. Let's do it again sometime.